What's going on, everyone? So, reports came out that the Los Angeles Lakers and the Utah Jazz have talked about a John Collins trade. Now, I am somebody that would love to have John Collins. I've talked about him on several occasions. I'm not going to lie, at the beginning, like last offseason, kind of had my questions about him, but now that we've seen what this team really needs, what this team really lacks, the season that John Collins is coming off of, and my whole thing has just always been, I think John Collins has been a sort of victim of circumstance, right? He was always really good with Atlanta, but from like day one, for whatever reason, Atlanta just kind of wanted to get off of him. And you saw him and his confidence kind of waver. And then he went to the Utah Jazz, and it was kind of like, I don't know if that would be best for the Lakers, right? Fit-wise, ideal-wise, right? He's probably best as a 4, but you have LeBron James, so it's like, could that be a little bit of an awkward fit? And then also like production-wise, right? Like, can he get his confidence back up? Maybe he just needs a home. Maybe he just needs something like that, but I kind of wanted to see more. And then fast forward to last year's trade deadline and watching John Collins in an actual role, getting his confidence and swagger back a little bit, watching his defensive versatility, watching his ability to even potentially play the 3, although I still think ideally at the 4 would be great. Him in a small ball 5 role, right? That is when I was like, okay, I'm sold, right? I just kind of wanted to see John Collins kind of get back to the John Collins that we kind of knew he'd be capable of being. And I also think alongside LeBron James, Luka Doncic, and potentially Austin Reeves, I think he would thrive, right? Because now his role, he'd be, 4th option on the team, give you that athleticism, give you that versatility, particularly on the defensive side of things. He's shooting the 3 ball excellent. He's going to get wide open, just quality looks slot alongside Luka, LeBron James. He even could be that dunker spot lob threat for Luka Doncic, right? You could run him in small ball units, right? Where the Lakers like to run that small ball, where you could have John Collins at the 5 and still have some size in that regard because of his height. And then LeBron at the 4, maybe like a Dorian Finney-Smith at the 3, still have this kind of big small ball unit, right? I really like the idea, and I'm really sold on John Collins now. So this report came from Andy Larson of the Salt Lake Tribune, and it was reported on Locked On Jazz. He said the Lakers and John Collins have been a conversation that's been had. The Warriors were interested in a trade deadline before they got Jimmy Butler. I think just contract-wise, that doesn't work out anymore. He had productive enough season last year that there should be interest in the league somewhere for him. I don't expect the Jazz to get value back necessarily in those deals, though. He basically is talking about like John Collins is a great piece. It's coming off a very good season. We'll dive into his season last year here in a moment. But, what is his value on the market? What kind of type of return would he potentially get? This is something like I've talked about like with the John Collins trade. Ideally, I'd like to get John Collins right? Like, can you get a Walker Kessler and a John Collins is something that I've talked about very heavily. Lakers still very much interested in Walker Kessler. Right, have a whole video already done about Walker Kessler, but then we got the John Collins thing. I've talked about Walker Kessler a lot, so I was like, this is a good opportunity to talk on John Collins. So I'll post the Walker Kessler video here, later. But John Collins, he's still young. He's 27. He'll be 28 going into next season, right? So he's still young enough to be a piece for the next, handful of years, at least through this contract. Again, he's coming off of a very productive season in which he was very good, one of the better players for the Utah Jazz. You look at this year, he is on a player option for $26.58 million. Now, he's a guy that I don't know if that would be his contract going forward. He'd probably get less. You'd have to trade, right? So what, a Rui Hachimura and probably like a Gabe Vincent or something like that to get that done, right? Remember, Lakers can't take on more salary. They'd have to send out more salary, right? So you're really looking at sending out about $27 million in contracts. So Rui gives you 18. You'd have to clear basically another $10 million or so. Utah maybe want Jared Vanderbilt back. Otherwise you maybe stack a couple guys, but realistically speaking, you're probably looking at, a package kind of centered around Rui Hachimura. What assets would you have to give up? right? Even the Utah Jazz side of things were like, you're not going to get a return for John Collins. If it was like, Rui, just because even though John Collins, I think, would be slotted at a position, he's much better suited at the 3 than Rui Hachimura because of his athleticism, his size and wingspan, and his ability to defend in space, out on the perimeter, and at the rim, right? So, both guys give you, quality 3-point production and 3-point shooting. So I think John Collins would be an upgrade for this Lakers team, slotted at the 3 if you had to go that route. Again, ideally, I'd like him at the 4, maybe for offensive purposes, right? Maybe he's slotted at the 4. LeBron's more out on the perimeter for 3, and then maybe defensive purposes, he's out there on the perimeter defending. You have LeBron and him out on the perimeter, right? Certain matchups, maybe you can have him defend, right? You can get creative with John Collins because, again, he is athletic. He is versatile. So you could have LeBron slot at the 3 if you wanted to, right? So go get a center, ideally Walker Kessler, but have that center, have John Collins at the 4 with LeBron at the 3, but for defensive purposes, maybe switch that, right? So John Collins can kind of defend out on the perimeter, help rebound. He's also a better rebounder than Rui Hachimura. So it just comes down to that. Like if you had to give up, like I said, Rui and Gabe Vincent, right, clearing a roster spot, clearing, say $3 million off the books, and then also had to give up, say, the 55th pick in this year's draft, right? And Utah's like, hey, we'd rather get something than nothing for him because they could just lose him. Then yeah, perfect, beautiful. Go get John Collins, right? Go sign me up for John Collins because, again, I just think he gives you a lot of what the Lakers need. Athleticism out on the perimeter primarily, a guy that can shoot the 3 ball, a legit 3-and-D wing that – as your 4th, 5th guy on the Lakers, I think would be ideal and would be fantastic. And he's coming off of a really good season. So you look at last year, 30.5 minutes per game, 40 games played. Now, keep in mind, right, because that 40 games is very misleading. Because Utah was a tanking team, and they literally, for weeks at a time, sat all 5 starters, right? I mean, they were like blatantly taking, right? So keep that in mind. You look at the last 2 years, 68 games played, 71 games played. So as long as he's giving you around, 65 to 70 games, I think you're in good shape. 30.5 minutes per game, 13.3 field goal attempts per game, shot 52.7% from the floor, shot 40% from 3-point range on 3.7 attempts. He is a career 36.3% 3-point shooter, but this year shot 40%. Last year he shot 37%, but he has had multiple seasons in which he shot 40% from 3-point range, slotting alongside a Luka Doncic and a LeBron James. He's probably going to be, my guess is around that 38 to 40% range, just because of the quality of looks that he's going to get, right? So he gives you the 3-point production that you get from Rui Hachimura if you were to trade a Rui Hachimura in this deal, right? But you get the defense and athleticism that you don't get with Rui Hachimura. So to me, it would be an upgrade for the Lakers. 2-point range, 57.5% from the field, which is actually down for his career average, where he is just under 61%, but on 9.6 attempts, 58.3% EFG, shot 84.8% from the foul line on 4 attempts, 8.2 rebounds, including 2.2 offensive rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, a block on the dot, both steal and block, and 19 points per game. So again, just a guy that gives you just good quality production across the board, a guy that can really kind of help you in multiple ways. Talk about a guy that, like I said, can slot in, best suited, again, as your power forward, but again, it's probably going to be a Rui situation where Rui is best suited as your 4, but has to play the 3 because of LeBron. John Collins, probably something very similar. Like I said, maybe you're kind of flip-flopping on offensive and defensive purposes, right? Because John Collins in that weak side corner and in that dunker spot as a lob for Luka, I think could do some wonders, right? And then on defense, he's defending out on the perimeter and switching out on like kind of the forwards out there. I think that could give you some defensive versatility. Can't be much worse than Rui Hachimura, especially with his athleticism. And he is a very good defender, right? So, and he's a better rebounder, so he can chase down those loose balls and, just kind of give you more production overall, in my opinion, on the defense side of things, rebounding, as well as giving you the same type of offensive production, without skipping a beat. Now, I'm not expecting him to average 20 points a game on the Lakers because, again, at best, he would be your fourth option behind Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves. However, if he can be a 15-point a game guy on average or 13, like Rui, is giving you basically 13. If he could be 13 to 15 points a game, but is giving you better defense, better rebounding, right, better versatility out there, I think he could really thrive. But also, I wouldn't be shocked if used in the right manner, if he is like an 18-point a game guy, just because he can be in that dunker spot for Luka, right? So you could have at times run that small ball, that pace and space, right? But also leave John Collins in that dunker spot at times and just let, Luka just feed him several times a game, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets, 3 to 4 baskets a game just on average, just from Luka and him being a high flyer that can get up there and go get it, right? So that could be beneficial. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. As always, this is a discussion. I pass a question on you. Let me know. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos. I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.